AP Statistics. It's time for example 4, unit 6. And I know y'all are getting tired of the IQ normal distribution, but I think this is the last one, so you're welcome. All right, so like I said, I am using the IQ normal distribution with these parameters. And based on that distribution, I'm going to answer the following questions. All right, so for part A, what score represents the 80th percentile? So I'm always going to draw a picture for these. So I'm going to put my center all the time. All right, 80th percentile. When you see the word percentile, you are shading to the left. In this case, you are shading 80% to the left of a value. Well, it should register in your head that 80% is by far more than half of the graph. So I know that the value I'm looking for is somewhere to the right or above 100. So I know that this right here is going to represent 80%, or just 0.8 is fine. So what I'm looking for here is this value right here. I want to know what IQ score represents the 80th percentile. So if I go to Staplet to do this, okay, this time when I go to Staplet and I choose a normal distribution, on this drop-down menu, I am now going to choose calculate a value corresponding to an area. So again, I'm going to type in my mean and standard deviation and ask it to plot the distribution. And now what I'm going to look at is calculate boundary value 4. Now this pull down menu right here has left tail, right tail, and center. Left tail is when shading's to the left of a value, right tail is when shading's to the right, central is when you've got shading between two values. So of course I'm using left tail because this is a percentile, and the area of course is 80%. So I'm going to type in 0.8 and calculate the value. Well, the value it gives me is 113.466. All right, so I'm going to go back to my notes here. All right, well, clearly we can't have an IQ of 0.4, so I'm just going to round this to 113. So I expect 80% of people to have an IQ of below 113. That's pretty much what that tells me. All right, the other way you can do this is using the chart. All right, and with the chart, this one gets kind of tricky because it's all estimation. So the 80%, normally we would use the chart in the other way. We would be using the z-score to find the area. But this time, we're going to have to backtrack. So remember, all these values in here, this part of the chart, these are all the values for area. So I'm now going to look within those to find a value that as closely matches 80% as I can. So what I'm going to do here, remember that this value that we just found with Staplet, it is above the mean. So that indicates that a z-score would be positive. So we're in the positive portion of the chart. That's a good place to be. That's where we need to be. So I'm going to find a value that is as close to 80% as I can. All right, excuse me. Sorry about that. All right, so that is going to be right here at 0.7995. 0.8023 is close, but 0.7995 is the closest one to 0.8. So that's the one we're going to use. So if you'll notice, 0.04 and 0.8. So the z-score that is the closest to that area of 80% is 0.84. So I'm going to go back to my notes, and since I have a z-score of 0.84, I am now going to use that in my z-score formula to find what that x value is. So this is my z-score formula, but now I know what z is, and I have to find x. So I am just going to multiply 0.84 and 16. I'm just cross multiplying here. And then on the right, I'm going to have x minus 100. This is just simple algebra. That's all it is. And then when you solve this, you are going to find that it is 113.44. So either way, you're going to get the same answer. I just wanted you to see it both ways. All right, let's do the rest of this. 95th percentile. Well, 95th percentile is almost the whole chart, or the whole graph. So some value gives me my 95th percentile. That means 95%, 0.95 below that value. So Staplet's pretty easy to use. I'm going to do it the same way. So we're going to use the chart again for this one, so you'll get some extra practice. So using the chart, I'm going to find an area as close to 0.95 as I can. So I'm just going to look down through here. Which one's the closest? Well, I've got 0.9505 and I've got 0.9495. Well, they're the same distance away from 0.95, so use whichever one you want. I really don't care. So I'm just going to use 1.64, this one right here. So 1.64 equals x minus 100 over 16. I cross multiply. And then, of course, I add 100 to both sides, and I get roughly 126. There you go. All right. What score marks the top 15%? So the top 15% would be right there, and I want to know that value now. Okay, for this one, you have to be careful if you use your z-score for your chart, because if you look for 0.15 in your area, it's going to find this one over here, and that's not the one you want. So if you use your chart for this one, then you're going to want to look up an area, not a z-score. Well, you're going to look up an area to find your z-score. You're going to want the area for 0.85. Just be careful with that. All right, so for this one, we'll use Staplet again, just for the sake of time. And this time, this is going to be right-tailed. So 15%. And that's going to give me 116.58. And of course, I would just round this. You can truncate it or round it, 116 or 117, doesn't matter to me. Okay, and then part D, what scores show the bottom 30%? So bottom 30%, again, for the sake of time, I'm going to show you in Staplet. Be left-tailed. 30%, 91.61. So 91 or 92. Okay, either one of those will work. And you will want to show an inequality with these, perhaps the probability that x is less than 91 or 92, whichever way you go with that. You can write them in that format, and that is good communication to round out your answer, just so you know.